everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. We are broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, on 105.3 FM, the Gulf Coast, and 107.7 New Orleans. Guys, we got a fantastic show lined up for you this evening. But first, I would like to give a big shout out to our Patreon page, Heed the World. If you get a chance, get over there, donate a little bit, and that gives you access to some very interesting articles at experiencersupport.org. A lot of stuff by our very own Ryan Stacy. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to check out his podcast on Mondays at 5 p.m. called The Skeptical Sleuth. Ryan breaks down a lot of interesting cases that he's investigating, some very interesting stuff. Speaking of some interesting stuff in the UFO world, we got some news. And I'm going to leave this up to you guys to check it out, all right? Now, I'll go ahead and tell you right off the bat my opinion, but apparently there has been a recent UFO sighting in Brazil. Yes, I went and looked at this. You can go Google UFO sighting Brazil. It'll pop up, and there's actually video footage of this. Now, I will say this. After doing a little bit of research, it turns out there was a balloon festival in Brazil, so it could be a balloon. But I'll let you check it out yourself. Go Google UFO sighting Brazil, and you give your opinion and your 2 cents, all right? But definitely check it out. All right, guys, we got a great guest tonight, a great guest, all right? Not only is she an author, a psychic, a medium, and a death experiencer. Let's get a big welcome for tonight's guest, June Edward.
Hello, hello.
How you doing, June?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Well, I tell you what, I'm excited to have you here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Like I said, your bio is super interesting, full of really cool stuff. But if you don't mind, do you care to introduce yourself a little better to our viewers?
Sure. I'm a relationship expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Relationship Mastery Program, which is a 7-week program, and a psychic medium. I died when I was 27. I came back here by choice, and I love what I do.
That is so awesome, because first of all, the thing that right off the bat that caught my experience, my attention was you're doing something for almost like relationships, right? To help people.
So what I do is I teach people how energy works, because everything in the universe is energy, and we're not the suit that sits here. We are the energetic soul that's inside. So when you understand how energy works, you can actually change anything in your life. Everyone that's in your life is on the same energetic frequency as you. This is how the law of attraction works.
Absolutely. And, energy is everything. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Well, let's do this because, I'm always interested in people's origin stories, So how did this happen? When did you notice you had these abilities, and when did it all start?
So my first memory, I was born with a lot of psychic ability. Apparently my mom was also a medium that I didn't know until later in life because she didn't actually raise me. And when I was 3 years old, I remember hearing someone calling my name when I was in bed sleeping. And I got up thinking it was my parents and go to their room and they're asleep. So I go back to bed, and then I start noticing all these faces around my bedroom. And it was scary. I pulled the covers up over my head, and when the sun started to come up, I literally saw like the shadows going face to face with me. Very frightening. And as I got older, I just knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. And when you're a kid in school and you start telling all your friends what's going to happen before it happens, you get labeled a freak really quick. So as much as I could, I blocked my abilities out of fear because I was afraid of it. And when I got older, they would still come through to me, but only if someone had died. If they died, they would come to me immediately, and I'd be telling my family, "Oh, John Smith died last night," and they're like, "What are you talking about? I just saw him. I just talked to him," and sure enough, they'd check, and he had just died. Yeah.
Oh well, and you would like see these.
They would come.
Did you see these people in your bedroom?
Yeah, they'd literally come to me. I see them. I've always seen them literally 3D. I can't tell the difference sometimes. Because it's energy. I read the energy. Human beings in this body, we resonate around 500, the 500 range, 520, 530, somewhere around there. When your soul leaves this body, you're still in that range unless you go into the light. When you think of the speed of light in quantum physics, that's moving at somewhere around 160,000 miles per second. That's a very high frequency. So that resonates very high. So I can tell the difference if someone's here, if there's a spirit here, a soul here that's here from the light, I can tell the difference because I can feel the energy difference. So the souls that are here, that are stuck here, I can usually get a feeling that they're not human. Every now and then, though, I've got to do a double take. I was grocery shopping one morning, and I saw this guy by the front door who looked like he was kind of a bum. And I did a double take and looked at him. He's like, "You can see me." I'm like, "Oh no." He's like, "You can see me. You need to talk to me." I'm like, "I'm not working." Because I'm either working or I'm not, because I've been very well trained to turn it on and off like a light switch, or you just go crazy. And he got angry when I told him that. And there was a display of hot dog and hamburger rolls at the door. And he picked up one of the packages and he threw it at me. And it only went maybe 3 feet. But the poor woman at the register saw it come off the shelf and go that way. And she's like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I just kept walking.
Wow. So, okay. Now you said something that really caught my attention too. You said human. So sometimes non-human things come to you.
So I read Akashic Records, which is the book of life. Everyone has a book of life. And that record room is actually kept in the lowest level of heaven, the 5th dimension. I got there accidentally the first time. And the person that guards the records and gets me the books, I had no idea when I first started all this out who it was, what it was. All I could see was this very tall something with robes on. He keeps his hands under. And I've since learned he's in like a bluish purple type outfit. I've since learned that he's a Palladian. And I've had to actually call on him for information when I was doing a reading on someone that had been abducted multiple times to find out why they kept getting abducted. So I went and asked him, and he gave me a lot of wonderful information. But they resonate obviously very, very high because Palladians work with the light. They're light workers as well. Grays, not so much. They're higher than us. Yeah, they're higher than us, but they're a low vibration.
Okay, that's interesting because that's something to where I lean towards kind of what you're talking about there. Like right now, how a lot of our UFO stuff and it is in the news with the Congress, and you have people, David Grush that came out public and testified. But he refers to a lot of these things being possible interdimensional beings. Absolutely. And that's something that I could really, I'm thinking there's a very strong possibility that's what it could be. So it sounds like that's kind of what you lean on too, correct?
Time travel is absolutely possible. I've done it myself. I've only done it a couple of times, but in a real, so what you have to remember is, our soul is way too big for the body that it's in. Some of our soul's in our body, some of it's over our body that people can see, and they call it an aura. And the majority of your soul is actually in the fifth dimension, that lowest level of heaven. And it orchestrates the timing of the events that happen in your life, and all the knowledge that you've had in all your lifetimes is there. So when you get into a really deep meditation and you get out of your head, and more of your soul leaves your body. Same thing at night when you go to sleep, because your vibration actually rises and more of your soul leaves your body. So when more of your soul leaves your body, it can actually go anywhere you want it to go. And I've brought people through from the other side when I'm doing mediumship for people. And a couple of them, not a lot of them, but a couple of them have told me that they've literally, that's what they're doing. One of them was came to find out she was a history teacher. And she's telling me that she's literally time traveling, going back in time to when these historical events happened. And she was very upset because everything she's been teaching and all our books are wrong.
Well, you know what's interesting is I did this one time. By the way, I did a meditation and I got so deep, and I've only done this one time in my entire life, and it was almost like a ayahuasca trip or something. But I didn't take anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just was in deep meditating state, and I remember I started to get the feeling where I had no control of where I was where I was going, and it terrified me though. Almost like if you let go of a raft and you begin to float away and you need
Mm-hmm.
something to grab onto for us. I needed a safety. And I remember when I was letting go, I realized I wasn't in control where I was going, and it scared me. And I remember snapping out of it, and I couldn't get back.
So when you're in this body, you have a brain in your head, right? Most of us. Your brain, although it's a computer and it's processing all your information, it has a specific job. Its job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. So most people are making all their decisions during the day based on fear, but fear is also blocking you from seeing the other side and doing those types of things. And that's why you snapped out of it, because your brain kicked in.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Well, it was such a weird experience. Uh-oh, June popped off real quick. You're still there. We can hear you though.
I'm back. My camera fell off.
You're good.
Back.
She's back. Can we?
There you go. I'm back.
There we go. Wow, wait a minute. Are you a quick change artist? What happened there?
My dog knocked the table, and there went the camera.
There we go. Cool. All right. Well, maybe the dog keeps.
Got me again.
There we go. Got you again. You're good. You're good. Most importantly, as long as we can hear you. But when that happened, the thing that really I found, it was just I think not having control. It felt like I didn't have control. It's what it felt like I didn't. And it's like, it was almost like an out of body experience. I was out of my body somewhere else, and I didn't know where this was going. And I just remember, fear, boom, let's come back to this world. But so many little avenues we can touch on with this, because, I've talked to people who've done remote viewing, who've done a lot of these things, and this sounds like it's all tied in together, kind of like what you do.
That's how I do what I do. More of my soul leaves my body, and it just goes wherever you send it, and it's sending energy back. Because people ask me, well, how does it work if you're not next to me? I don't have to be next to you. I can send energy everywhere and anywhere at any time. It's just like Reiki. I tell everybody, go take a Reiki class, so you'll understand it, because it's not your energy that you're using. You're becoming like a piece of wire, and you're channeling the energy through you. That's what you're doing if you're doing Reiki properly.
So you, as a little child, and you had these experiences, you would see these people in your room, which that would scare the heck out of me when I was a kid, seeing that stuff. When did you get brave enough, though, to say, hey, look, I have this gift. This is real. I mean, because everybody, you would have to be a little worried that people wouldn't believe you or shun you away.
So when I was 27, I died. And you would think that that would have been the time, but it wasn't, because clearly you write your path, and I was not ready at that point in time. So about 10 years ago, when my life was in absolute upheaval, I was getting divorced, my mom was dying, I was losing my businesses. It was a mess. I went and had Reiki done, and she recommended that I meditate. And just like everybody else says, there's no way I can shut my mind off. I gave it a try, and it's cumulative. But the first time I did it, it was like I kicked the door into the other side, and they're like, she's ready. And I couldn't shut it off again, just like when I was a kid, but worse. Now that I had died and gone to the other side and came back, it's like my vibration is that much higher. And I was attracting like crazy, and I didn't know what to do. I get up in the morning, there's another 20, 30 people around my bed. I went to work, and I was working in my business as a medical esthetician. And every person that came in my room, I knew everything there was to know about them. The first one that came in, I'm like, did your aunt just die? And she's like, yeah, how'd you know that? And I'm like, I have no idea how I know that. I said, did you clean our house out this weekend? She goes, yeah, last weekend we cleaned our house out. I'm like, oh, did you find one of those sock puppets that looks like a monkey? How random is this, right? She's like, yeah, we found one in the attic. I'm like, oh my God. And this just continued until like my third client literally had a man in uniform follow her in the room. And I'm like, are you a widow? And she's like, yeah, my husband died. I said, he was in the service? She goes, yeah. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, if he had any messages or anything for you, would you want to know? She's like, absolutely not. I'm like, okay. Now I got this guy standing next to me for an hour, and I'm like, I'm sorry, she doesn't want to know you're here. There's nothing I can do. It freaked me out. It really did.
So like people's loved ones, why do you think do they hang around here, or do they not pass to the next dimension, the other levels of heaven, like how you were talking about?
So when you're traveling at that speed at 160,000 miles per second, you can go anywhere you want very, very quickly. And what I've found is as soon as you think of them or say their name, they show up immediately. And it's like a two-way mirror. Okay. They can hear you. They can see you. A lot of them can slow their energy down enough to move objects and things. And it's like they're banging on the glass saying, don't you know I'm here? Don't you know I'm here? They want to engage with you. They want you to know they're there. They don't want to be forgotten. And they're very, very grateful. In fact, I have people that kind of try to sneak into a reading, because I had one the other day. The girl was adopted. She's like, no one's going to ask for me. I'm so grateful that, your mom allowed me to kind of come in first and just, tell you that I was your dad's mother. It was interesting. So, but they always want to talk to you.
So in like, you've done readings, or you've had people come in to where they've maybe spoke to their parents, or you've been the communicator between, basically just almost, I guess, like a seance kind of.
Well, no, what medium just means in the middle. So I'm in the middle. So, and the reality is, if they haven't learned how to slow their energy down enough to even talk to me, then it's a charades game. But they've taught me a lot of the signs and symbols that they'll use so I can get the message across. And the only other thing I can do is describe the person, and their personality and everything else, so they recognize that that's who that is, because I don't know them. The person that I'm doing the reading for is the one that knows them.
Okay, let me do this real quick. I want to look over here to the comments. First of all, good to see you, Michelle. So glad to have you here checking out the show. Same thing, Christopher and Lisa. Glad to see you back. Guys, if you would like to, please feel free to ask June any question you would like. We'll put it up on the screen, and she will answer it to the best of her abilities. So if you guys got any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask June. She would love to answer your questions, and I love to see you guys checking out the show. Thank you guys so much for your support here. Like my parents have passed, and I'm a firm believer that they're still with me, every day. I mean, there's a lot of little signs and things that I experience that they let me know they're here.
They're not hanging around you all the time. Trust me. They're enjoying the other side because they can do anything they want without a body. They do live vicariously through us, however. They used to say, set an extra plate at the dinner table and they'll come join you for dinner. And they absolutely will. Clearly they can't sit there and eat the turkey, but they'll remember how good it was and what a good cook you were and that everybody's enjoying it. And they'll be, shoulder to shoulder with you there because they're enjoying it as much as you are. But because they live vicariously through us, if you're stuck in grief because you lost them, they're going to be stuck in grief too.
And, I've noticed over time, and of course I miss them, but over time, it doesn't bother me like it does. You get used to the new normal, and like I said, I would love to hug my mom, but at the same time, she has made her presence known around me enough to where I know she's still around.
Yep, absolutely.
We've got our first question here by Michelle Wilfong. Thank you so much, Michelle. We've got, let's see. I have a question. How do I learn to shut them off? I will wake up in the middle of the night and there's voices talking to me. I can't understand them. They're all talking at once.
So you don't give them any energy because they want attention from you. So you tell them to shut up, turn on some background noise or something and go back to sleep. You're in control at all times. That's the bottom line. And you don't know who you're listening to or who you're letting in. So they could be demonic. You don't know. So you do not give them any energy. You completely ignore them. Don't talk back to them. Don't try to hear them. Nothing unless you're fully trained in what you're doing.
See, that's interesting. Now, because you talked about the demonic side and some people who are on the fence about the dark and light stuff, but I'm a firm believer that there are dark things out there also. Do you have any stories or experiences to where you've had to deal with some
I've had plenty. I've worked with many famous paranormal groups and authors, and I've been attacked. I was attacked by a sorcerer when I was reviewing photos for an author from Canada, as a matter of fact. And I had no idea what I was looking at was a scribing bowl that was from a sorcerer's house from the 1600s. He didn't tell me that, or I would have done more protection. I just did standard protection. I should have had a salt circle and everything to be looking at this stuff. They have more power on the other side than they do here because they don't have a body holding them back. And he was dangerous. And as I'm on the phone with this author, telling him what I'm seeing, within 2 minutes, I developed a huge sty in my eye that closed my eye completely. And it was like that for a month. It happened that fast.
Oh,
and
wow.
What did they used to do in the old days? Right, give you a sty in your eye. That's what he did. But I've chased a demon around a 3 family as well because I couldn't get anybody else to go in and help this family. They were 3 hours from me. And I ended up driving out there because they were attacking, the mother and the son. And I had a camera crew, paranormal group go with me and meet me there and film the whole thing. But they are absolutely real. If you have to understand that everything in the universe has to stay in balance. So if there is good, there is evil. That's it.
Absolutely. I totally believe that. All right. We've got another question from a favorite viewer here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. She always comes with some great questions. Love to see Live Light here. She says, hi, June. Do you believe everyone has the ability to connect with their interdimensional beings?
So everyone has the ability to do anything they want in their life if that's what they choose to do and that's what they put their energy towards. Even mediumship and psychic development, everyone is born with the abilities, but it's like playing a piano. Some people sit down and all they want to do is play chopsticks. Other people really want to do it a little bit, so they teach themselves some songs. Other people want to make a career out of it, so they become, they learn and become concert pianists, right? And then you have somebody like me. I'm like your 6-year-old prodigy that sits down and plays Mozart. I just have, a lot of abilities for whatever reason. But everyone has abilities, and yes, you can connect. But again, you need to be careful because if you don't know what you're connecting to and you don't know what you're bringing in, it can be extremely dangerous.
I totally agree with that. I think everybody has had some type of psychic experience something that you can't explain. You're like, wow, that was weird. I can't believe that
Well,
happened.
it's that knowing. It's your soul. It's that gut instinct that you get, that you just know you're supposed to do something. You don't think it through a lot. You just do it and it works out fine. That is your psychic ability. And your soul is always trying to put you on the path that you're supposed to be on. And the more you get in touch with your soul and get out of your computer, the easier your life becomes, because everything starts to come to you. When you raise your vibration, that's the law of attraction. But because everything has to stay in balance, if you don't balance your energy, you're going to crash and lose it.
And I think some people though are a little more talented than others, just like you said, the Mozart, like I can shoot a basketball, but I'm not, LeBron James, So,
but if you wanted to be and you went out there and you practiced it for 8 hours a day, you might be able to surpass him.
Maybe, and give me a trampoline, I might be able to dunk. So, but I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. Really, I am. And to bring this back, I love the way, and, we do got a break coming up, but after the break, I do want to touch base a little more on this. I love the way you do talk about non-human things coming to you. And and you even mentioned some of the, the extraterrestrial, interdimensional being, the Greys, the Palladians, and stuff like that. How long, without, just touching a quick base on this, how long did you realize that's what it was that you were communicating with, not just other people?
Well, the Palladian I knew right off the bat, because he lets me into the record room. I've been in situations. I was in a bar one night and I was getting contacted by someone at the end of the bar psychically. And when I looked, I could tell it was an alien in a human body. They're very uncomfortable in a human body. They're just freaky looking. And he was angry that he must have picked up on my energy when I walked in. I don't know, because I heard him commenting to me first. But it's happened a couple of times. I've picked up on people that have actual aliens in the body, not a person, not a soul. Yeah.
And they do have a connection to the afterlife. So like our people, like when we pass, we will have interactions with them as well.
I don't know that. I don't know. It's not like I channel, aliens to come in all the time. The only reason that I talked to that Palladian was because he was the only alien that I knew to get information about why this girl had been getting abducted so many times. So I don't know. None of them on the other side have ever told me that they're interacting with aliens or that they see them. I don't know. They may be a completely different dimension. I have no idea.
Okay, that is interesting, though. Definitely interesting. Well, to me, one of the first questions, like, we've watched a lot of paranormal investigating shows, and one of the things that I'm like, the question I would always ask, and I'm sure they do. I've had some people say that they've tried to ask this question, but they don't get a direct answer. It's almost like there's rules. But my first thing would be like, is there a God? Is there an afterlife? I want to know. I need to know these things.
There is rules. There's rules on the other side, the same as there are rules here. Absolutely. There are things that I have to do before I get into the Akashic record room. I can't read anyone's records that are under 18. Then it's not allowed. They won't give you the book.
That's interesting. That's so, and I like I said, this, particular investigator who I love to death. She's a great investigator. Some of the best EVPs I've ever heard in my life. And when I asked her, I was like, well, how come you don't ask them this? And she said, well, I've tried, but she said, there's rules. There's like their answer. They answered the best way they could, but there was rules.
But if she's doing EVPs, she's talking more often than not to souls that are here and that have not gone into the light. They have no idea if there's a God. They haven't gone into the light. And a lot of the ones that I try to pass into the light, some of them are afraid to go because they fear God. They were taught to fear God, and they think they're going to be punished.
Well, I'll tell you what, June, let's do this. We got to cut to the commercial break. As soon as we get back, I'm going to pick right back up, guys. We'll be right back after these messages.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property.
Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services.
Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, guys, we are back. And for you guys just now tuning in, we have been talking to author, psychic, and death experiencer June Edward. Now, June, right before we cut out to the break, you had talked about the EVPs. These are spirits that do not know they have passed, correct?
Right. We were talking about rules on the other side.
Yes, and rules on the other side. Yes.
So angels are a great example of rules on the other side. Angels are a separate race. They were never human. They are their own race, and their entire existence is to help us. But their rule is they can't help if you don't ask. So if you want help, you have to ask them. If you want Archangel Michael to protect you, you have to ask him. You can't just assume he's going to come in and protect you every time you meditate. You have to ask. If you lose something, St. Anthony, ask him. So same thing with meditation, mediumship, right? Psychic abilities. Everybody's a big joke. Oh, if you're so psychic, how come you don't have the lottery numbers? How come you're not a multimillionaire? Well, we all have a life plan that we wrote before we came here, like it or not. And I can't give you information that's going to change your life plan. If you're not supposed to win the lottery, you're not going to get the number. It's that simple. And that includes me. Although I did give somebody the lottery number once. They only won a few $1,000s, but yeah.
Hey, I can use a few thousand, June. So if you got anything, throw it my way.
But that's the big joke. You can't give somebody information. They're not going to give you information to give to anyone that's going to change their life plan. That's the rule, big rule.
So when you mean
Okay.
life plan, are you saying like things are kind of predetermined for us?
So you planned this life before you came here, and most souls have reincarnated many, many, many times. And we reincarnate with the same soul group every time we come back. And there's millions of people in your soul group. Every archangel has a soul group. Okay. And before you reincarnate, you literally sit down with the people that owe you karma. And karma is something that you develop in this lifetime. If you do something to someone else and you do not have remorse or do not make amends, you owe them karma. You owe them something in another lifetime. And it's not a bad thing. Maybe you stole money from somebody in a past life. They're not necessarily going to come and steal money from you in the next lifetime. They may come back and be your boss and teach you how money works, because money is energy. That's why it's called currency. So you plan that life. You plan what's supposed to happen. And if you're off of your plan, guides, angels, someone from the other side is going to step in and put you back on your path. And sometimes you're not going to like it very much. Suppose you live on the East Coast and you're supposed to move to the West Coast. And that's where you're going to get this great job and meet the girl of your dreams and have 6 kids and who knows, right? But that's part of your life path where you're supposed to go. And I'm not going. I don't want to move. You're stuck in fear. You're in your head. Oh, I don't know what's out there. Well, they're going to step in and make you go. Maybe they'll burn your house down. Maybe you'll lose your job. Something will happen to make you go where you're supposed to go. And as terrible as something is when you're in the middle of it, everybody can look back. 20/20 vision's great, and see how everything that happened in your life has led you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And even if it was a tragedy, something good came out of it. Something else wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen. Everything is so interconnected. It's unbelievable. And realistically, the only thing that you can delay in this lifetime is learning the lessons that you came here for. Hence the book. Those are the 5 soul lessons that you're here to learn for your soul to advance. And you can take, the universe wants you to think you have a choice. So it's going to offer you door 1, 2, and 3. You take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you get divorced, you're in front of door 1, 2, and 3 again. Creatures of habit, keep taking door 1, get married, have a couple more kids, get divorced again. You could do that the rest of your life. If you've learned your lesson, you're not taking door 1 anymore. You're going to take door 2 or door 3. And you may still get married and have more children, but you're not going to get divorced for the reasons that you did previously, because you learned that lesson.
And some people, unfortunately, it seems like it takes a
long time.
tries.
Yeah. And we learn our lessons faster on this side than we do on the other side, and faster still within relationship. And everything is relationship. Your family, your friends, your coworkers. We have lots and lots of relationships in our life. Some are karmic, some are soulmate. And they're all here to either teach you something or for you to teach them.
Oh, wow. Okay, now I do want to touch base real quick. But you do believe there's spirits here that don't know they've passed or refuse to move on?
There's everything here. There's spirits here that don't know they've passed. A lot of children that I run into that are haunting homes, I find that they don't really understand that they've passed and they're still looking for their parents. Usually they're pretty easy to move into the light. Sometimes I have to call for their parents to come down, but usually they're pretty easy to move into the light. I find a lot of immigrants here from like the 1800s that are stuck. And spirit, because we're all energy, we're magnets. We're either attracting or repelling at any given time. And same thing when you've passed. A lot of souls that are stuck here, they start attracting more souls. Okay, so they'll congregate together. So I've gone into homes and found 40, 50 in the basement or in the attic, all kind of congregating together because they're afraid. They were afraid when they were here. They were here illegally. They lived in fear. When they died, they were still in fear. They were afraid to go into the light. So they just kind of congregated. And when I explained to them that their loved ones are on the other side waiting for them, that there's love in the light, they go into the light. But then I have people that are afraid to go into the light because they've killed someone. And they don't know what's going to happen to them or if they're going to be judged. And my answer to them is I cannot tell you what's going to happen to you. That is...
Oh, man.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Oh
And
my gosh, that makes a lot of
I have
sense.
not been able to move anyone that's taken a life at this point into the light. Because those, I believe those are the ones that end up, if they have no remorse, end up in hell. Those are the only
Wow.
people that I haven't been able to bring through.
Jeanette is terrifying now, because now we got Ted Bundy running around. We got the Night Stalker. We got all these creep shows that are, all right. I'm not sleeping tonight. Thanks.
Well, I don't think they're stuck here necessarily. I think they've already been pulled down below.
Good. That's where they belong. Okay. This is and I'm sure this is a very emotional, touchy subject for you, but it was in your bio. It's very interesting. I would love to hear your death experience when you were 27-year-old.
Sure. So I got married when I was 21, and at 22 I injured my back, and I needed back surgery. And I just knew if I went in to have that back surgery, I was going to die. And I put it off as long as I could. I put it off for 5 years until they told me I have no choice. I have to have the surgery done. And I let everybody know that was close to me that, listen, I'm going to die. And they're like, no, you're fine. You're just afraid. You're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. So the night before the surgery, I had to have an MRI test done at the hospital with contrast dye. And I explained to them that I think I'm allergic to it. I've had it once before. I had a really bad reaction to it. I couldn't get off the table. And they're like, everybody has that reaction. That's common. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, what do I know, right? I'm not the doctor. So as soon as they administered the dye, I died. And I literally was just taken to the other side. And I could still see everything that was happening in the hospital. I could see everything that was happening to my body.
So you had one that the out-of-body experiences where you saw things going on in the room?
I could see all that, but I was gone. I was already to the fifth dimension. I was already in heaven, which tells you that they can see us from there, because I could see everything. I could see everything that was happening behind me in the other room, the nurses in the hallway. I could see everything. But when I was in heaven, I got a life review. And it's literally like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater. And everything that was important in my life, the people that were really important and helped me through my life, those are the people they showed me, and all the times in my life that brought me joy. And then I heard a voice behind me tell me that it's not really my time. I can stay if I want to, or I can go back. It's my choice. And I used to tell everybody that the two things you take with you when you go is love and knowledge. But now with everything else that I've learned ever since, you take all of your feelings with you, not just love. You take all of them. But I was having an overwhelming sense of love, to the point where there aren't even words to describe the feelings. It's just incredible. And just such a weightlessness, because you don't have the body anymore. You don't have that physical, the aches, the pains, the heaviness. You don't have any of that. It's just amazing. And then, what was interesting was they didn't show my children in the life review. I don't know why, but I remembered I still had 2 young children here. And that was the biggest reason that I had decided to come back this time to begin with, and that they brought me the most joy in my life. And I hadn't had my 3rd one yet. And as soon as I decided that I wanted to come back for them, I was back in my body instantaneously. And I've done a lot of research on NDEs since for a TED Talk. And what I've learned is that everything's lumped together as an NDE. So my brother, when he was 16, was in a very bad car accident. He remembers standing on the sidewalk watching until the paramedics came, and then going back into his body. And he was almost dead. We didn't know if he was going to even make it, but he remembers that. What happens is your soul that's in the 5th dimension, orchestrating the timing of events, knew this was going to happen and had your soul jump out of your body. So your soul isn't feeling all of that pain and trauma, because you take with you all of your feelings. It would kind of almost injure your soul if you did that. A girlfriend, the same thing, hit on the side with a deer coming through her car and hit her square on. And she remembers, she's Catholic, and she thought she did something wrong because her soul was stuck on the roof of the car, and she couldn't, she thought maybe she couldn't go to heaven. And she remembered seeing the deer, the soul of the deer, go up to heaven because the deer died. And it was the same thing. She went back into her body when the paramedics came, saving her all that trauma. So everybody's lumped into that with an NDE. And of the people that have that, less than 10% actually make it to the fifth dimension or heaven where I went. And less than that have a life review, and next to no one is told that they have a choice to come back. So I feel pretty special for being offered that opportunity.
Okay, so when you say the fifth dimension, there's different dimensions of heaven, is what you're saying.
There are, yeah.
So, I mean, so when most people have a near-death experience, they make it with the first dimension. I mean,
They don't know. They're still here, stuck on. Their soul is here. It just hopped out of their body. They didn't make it to heaven. Only 10% make it to heaven, and then come, for whatever reason, they get pulled back. A lot of them are told you can't stay. A lot of them just get pulled back.
Are you hearing a voice talk to you? Did you hear like an actual audio voice speaking to you? Was it a voice that do you recognize familiar?
Nope. And I didn't turn around to look to see who it was because I was watching this life review and everything that was happening below, and deciding if I wanted to stay. Because I honestly, if it weren't for my children, I would have stayed. It was so amazing.
Absolutely.
I would have stayed. But they've explained it to me that it's kind of like a layer cake. And you go to the layer or the dimension based on how advanced your soul is and your belief. And when my mom died, they allowed me to see her soul go to one of the higher dimensions. And I saw the angel in her room all night. And I asked the angel what his name was in the middle of the night. And he told me his name was Makael. If they'd said Michael, I wouldn't have looked it up. They said Makael, and I looked it up, and it was the angel that brings advanced souls to the higher realms. And about a year later, for some reason, it just hit me again. And I'm like, Makael. I got to look it up again. And Makael is Michael. But had they told me Michael, I wouldn't have looked it up. So they're always teaching me stuff from the other side constantly, even when I do readings, always teaching me stuff.
Now, I think somewhere, didn't you mention your mother had this same ability as well?
My mom was a medium. When I started studying, I ended up studying at the same places, some of the same places she did 50 years earlier, and they remembered her. Yeah. So she never did anything with any of her ability. My dad ended up kidnapping us as children and telling us that she was crazy and that she threw us out, which was not the case.
Okay. Well, we've got a question. We've got a question here from, once again, Live Light. Like I said, she has some fantastic questions for our guests. It says, with all your experiences with the other side, is there a message for humanity? Do they have faith and hope in us 3D humans?
So it's interesting. Not too long after all my abilities opened up and I was starting to see the evil and the demonic side of this, I kind of flipped out and I'm meditating and I'm like, what's going on? It's like there's a war going on here between good and evil. And they're like, calm down, June, calm down. This has been going on a long time. You're just seeing it. I'm like, yeah. And basically they've told me that this war has been going on for a long, long time. And as any war, there's casualties. So there will be a lot of casualties, but it's coming to an end. This is kind of the peak of this period of whatever. I guess it's every, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years it happens. I have no idea, but it's strictly a war of good and evil. And it may play out in politics, but it's about good and evil. And what's the prize? It's always been the same. The prize is our souls. God wants it. The devil wants it. The prize is your soul. So choose a side. They've told me that it's going to be absolutely amazing. And we've only got a little over a year left and everything is going to be very, very different. Very different.
Oh, wow. So, okay. Now I've had guests on who have said very similar statements, what you just made. Like I said, it's a very interesting time right now. We are living in a very interesting time. But this guest particularly had mentioned about like the UFO sightings. He had talked about these, he mentioned fallen angels, he'd mentioned demons, and this is actually what's really going on. And there's a war taking place right above our heads that we don't even really know about.
It's not even just above your heads. It's happening ground level. It's all over the place. It's just unbelievable.
So, but you're saying a little over a year from now, something major is going to happen?
it's almost like the fog is going to clear. Things are going to start getting incrementally much better, much better.
Well, that's
It's a major change, and it's going to continue to change, and it's going to change. So it's almost like time has sped up. It really hasn't, but our perception of it has. And things are moving faster and faster. Things are happening faster and faster. So yeah, we've got, I don't know, less than a year and a half to go, and things are going to major changes for the good.
So the people who come visit you from the other side, can they see the future? Can they see anything that's about to take place?
I'm sure they can. They know everything that's happening, everything that's going to happen.
So, but I mean, you haven't had anybody come to you and say, hey, this and this is about to happen, you know?
So first of all, I have boundaries. They can't come to me if I'm not working unless it's an emergency. I have a gatekeeper on the other side that stops souls from just coming to me, because I'd be working 24/7 otherwise. If it's an emergency, for some reason, they can come through to me. Like I had a friend show up in the shower one day, big joke. She showed up in the shower and, you got to go see my husband. He's going to kill himself. And sure enough, he was going to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
But that's an emergency. Other than that, they can't come through to me, because I'd be waking up with 30 of them around my bed every morning again. So they just don't come to me. If I'm asking a question, maybe I'll get the answer right away. Maybe I won't. When I was writing my first book, everybody kept asking me, can we reincarnate as animals and plants? So I went and meditated and asked. I didn't get any answer. So I went back in my own Akashic records to see where my dog was in my past life, because I had such a connection to this dog. It was my son's dog. He picked it up in the military as a puppy in the Mexican-Texas border. He had him for 4 years. I had him for 4 years. He had to be put down because he had inoperable cancer. And lo and behold, in a past life, my son was my father, and the two of us saved this man's life. And he came back in this lifetime as this dog. It protected him for 4 years and me for 4 years. So absolutely we can, but sometimes the answers don't come the way you think they're going to come.
And I guess it's like with a lot of things in life, or, people who pray, they get prayers answered, but maybe not in the way you expect them to.
Right. And patience is one of the lessons we all have to learn as well. So they give me the answers that I need when I need those answers.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. I want to look over here in the comments section real quick here. We see Lisa and David Martin from Martin News. Hey, welcome. Welcome to the show, man. If you got any questions, you can pop a question up here and we will read it off, and June will answer it to the best of her ability. Now back to the near-death thing. Let me ask you, where do you think, because you hear stories about atheists who pass.
I've never seen an atheist on their deathbed, let me tell you. Never. The closer you get to your maker, the more fear kicks in. So people are concerned. Interesting. My dad was 93 when he died. He had been dying of cancer for a while and in bed for about the last year of it. And I'd go see him every couple of days. One day I go to see him. I want to talk to you about what it is you do. I said, oh, that's interesting. I thought you thought it was a big joke. He goes, well, no. He goes, I want to know why every morning when I wake up, I see my mother standing next to my bed. I said, well, it's about time you see her, Dad. She's been here for like a year. I said, she's going to help you transition when it's your time to go to the other side. He goes, well, that's not really what I want to know. I said, well, what do you want to know? He goes, well, how come I'll be awake for, like 10 seconds, she disappears. I said, Dad, she hasn't disappeared. She's still standing right next to me. I said, you can't see her because your brain just kicked in and you can't believe that she's here. And that's the problem. This is why, in order to connect to the other side and really start seeing things and understanding things, you got to get out of your head. This is what you do through meditation. You get out of your head and in touch with your soul.
Absolutely. I firmly believe in that. Well, let's do this real quick, June. This has been great. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Very interesting stuff. I love the way how you're super knowledgeable about this stuff too. I love it. But before we get out of here, I would like for you to give you a chance. Where can people follow you? Where can they get readings? Where can they buy your book? Let us know.
So my books are available everywhere, but you'll have to hunt them. So the easiest way to get them is just to go to my website, juneedward.com. There's no S in there, just juneedward.com. There's links to all my books. There are videos that you can watch. There are testimonials from my students from the Relationship Mastery Program. There is a webinar that you can sign up for free and learn a little bit more about energy. And then if you're interested in the Relationship Mastery Program, you can sign up for a call with me there. You can book a reading with me. I do astrology, numerology, destiny cards, Akashic records, psychic mediumship, whatever it is you're looking for or whatever it is you have problems or questions about. I also have a retreat that's going out first week of March. It's on the Norwegian Epic ship for a 7-night Western Caribbean Virgin Island workshop cruise. I'll be doing 4 workshops on the cruise, and the sooner you book, the more discounts there are. There's a preview of the ship tomorrow night that you can hook up with. You can find me on Facebook. All my social links are also on my website. And if you have any questions, you can chat with me through there as well.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, this has been a fantastic show. Like I said, very interesting stuff. Well, I tell you what, we got to get you back on the show sometime, June, because I feel like I could talk to you even more. You're just a wealth of knowledge on this. And you hear it, guys. If you get a chance, definitely reach out to her and get a reading. Because I feel like June could do a lot to help you in your life. June, well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. You have been fantastic.
Oh, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. It was, like I said, June Edward was amazing. Definitely check out her books. Go to her website. Get you a reading. Heck, get on the cruise. That sounds like an awesome time as well. Also, if you guys have not done so yet, okay, be sure to like, subscribe to the podcast, share it, tell your friends, all forms, wherever you listen to podcasts at, we're everywhere. We stream on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. Wherever you listen, be sure to subscribe and check us out. If you haven't done so, head over to Patreon, Heed the World on Patreon, and make a tiny little donation. $4 gets you access to some really interesting stuff at experiencersupport.org. And if you haven't done so, check out Ryan Stacy's podcast that airs at 5 o'clock on Mondays called The Skeptical Sleuth. Ryan just doesn't jump in head first and believe in everything that comes his way. He really breaks it down and says, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. He keeps it rational, but he keeps it grounded. So definitely check out his podcast on Mondays. And if you haven't done so, be sure to show me some love. That's right, Danny Whitson. Give me a follow at Super Magic Boy on Instagram or Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy on Facebook. I post where I'm going to be, upcoming shows, and I would definitely love to see some of you guys come out to a show. But anyways, like always, folks, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, on 105.3 FM, the Gulf Coast, and 107.7 FM, New Orleans. Guys, we are out of here. See you next Tuesday. All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.